Hello, welcome to QXon. In this video, we will talk about how various cells communicate with each other, what is known as intercellular communication, and why these intercellular communication is important. See, in multicellular organisms, the cells kind of talk to each other. Whatever is happening in one cell, that aspects of the cell are communicated to other cells so that they function together. So, signals from cell to cell determine whether a cell lives or dies. It is very important. For example, two cells are making contact with each other. They are sending signals to each other. So, if there is problem in the contact, then the other cell may also die, right? For example, say suppose a nerve is making a contact with the muscle, right? So, if there is a problem in the nerve, then the muscle also gets atrophied. Then whether the cell will remain quiescent or perform a specific function. For example, some signals may come from say suppose pituitary and act on the target organ. So, there are certain chemicals, right, and when these chemicals go and act on the target organs, it performs certain functions. So, this also is determined by signals from different cells. Then it also determines whether a cell will multiply or differentiate or even undergo apoptosis. So, all this is done together in a coordinated fashion by signals released from various cells or by cell to cell contacts or some other ways. So, let us see what are these ways. So, fundamentally there are three modes of intercellular communication. One is release of chemical substances. Second is interaction of surface molecules on the cells. So, with this surface molecules, the cells can interact with each other. Then third is the communicating junctions which are present between the cells. We will see each of these one by one. So, first let us see how this release of chemical substances acts. Well, the way these chemical substances acts basically is further classified based on the spatial relationships between the sending and receiving cells. What does this mean? Spatial relationship, that is how they are separated in space, right? The cell which is sending the signal versus the cell which is receiving the signal. So, those modes are endocrine mechanism, paracrine mechanism, autocrine mechanism and neurocrine or synaptic mechanism. So, in endocrine mechanism what happens that the sending cell is a distant cell. So, this is the endocrine cell suppose, and it releases certain chemicals in the blood vessels, and those chemicals travel in the blood vessels and act on a distant target organ or what is known as receiving cells. So, this form of signaling is known as endocrine signaling, and there are various examples about various endocrine organs. Say suppose thyroid is releasing T3 and T4, and these hormones T3 and T4 go and act on various target cells across the body. Then there is paracrine signaling. Here the term paracrine is used whenever the sending signal cell is just nearby or adjacent to the target cell. So, the sending cell secretes certain chemicals which act on nearby cells which contain the receptors for those chemicals. One example is the action of histamine. Histamine is released in the stomach and it acts on the nearby parietal cells which are present in the stomach itself. So, it does not go via the blood stream as it is happening in the endocrine mechanism. So, this is paracrine mechanism. Sending and receiving cells are nearby to each other. Then there is autocrine signaling. The term auto means that the released chemical is acting on the cell which is releasing the chemical. Okay. So, here we have a cell which is releasing the chemical is acting on the receptors which are present on the cell itself. So, this is autocrine signaling. One example is activation of the T cells, which are immune cells, T lymphocytes. So whenever there is activation of these T lymphocytes, they release certain chemicals and which act on the receptors present on themselves, which causes their amplified activation. Then next we have neurocrine or synaptic signaling. In neurocrine or synaptic signaling, we have a neuron. Obviously, as the term is stating, neurocrine signaling, we have a neuron. This neuron is releasing certain chemicals which is acting on the target organ, which may be a nerve, which may be a muscle. So, the neuron release certain chemicals which are known as neurotransmitters, which act on the target cell. So, with this we cover the first mode of intercellular communication, that is the release of chemical substances consisting of endocrine, paracrine, autocrine and neurocrine modes. So, let us now see the second mode of intercellular communication, that is interaction of surface molecules on the cells.